a Noble Media Group member.
America's known our share of tyrants. In response to tyranny, we created one of the greatest guiding documents ever written by mankind. We stood for what was right. We've also made mistakes, but we corrected those mistakes by fighting for what was right both inside our borders and beyond. Today, America faces another challenge: Christian nationalism. Misguided faith and misguided patriotism justifying misguided deeds.
Lord, turn the hearts of those who are in power and position to make decisions.
That protest T circle, breach the line.
That's not who we are, America. The Constitution is as true today as the day it was ratified. America stands for freedom, and America stands for doing what's right. And it's time we start restoring the American dream. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Restoring the American Dream. Michael, my friend, how are you doing today?
I am doing well. You know, it's man, it's great. We're ticking down to July 4th, to America's 250th birthday, and here in Philly, things are jumping. So it's exciting. And Brian and all who are listening, I'm excited about the Noble Media Group, everything that's going on right now, and great to be a part of it with restoring the American dream.
It's a major part of it. And for those that are new to what we're doing here, our goal with this is it's really almost nonpartisan. I hate to say it that way, but I think in many ways we are. With the goal of saying, okay, we're 250 years into this experiment. How do we make it another 250 years? Here's what the problems are. Here's what we need to do as Americans, and to make our future bright again. And Michael, you do a great job of diving into this stuff in a deep dive. It's not skimming the issues. It's more, hey, let's talk into some deep dives about what the issues are and how it's affecting Americans. And it's again, I say it's nonpartisan, but we also have no problem jumping on either side that does something dumb.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think that's part of it. And I got to tell you, and we're going to go on to what the move forward with the show, but it is exciting right now.
Yeah.
When you drive through town and you see the banners that are getting hung up, and the painting the sidewalks and the stores, and there is a level of excitement here, and I can't even imagine what it must be like over on your side of the country if that's what we're doing here in Olympia, Washington, and Vancouver, and so forth on the other side of the country.
Oh, absolutely. We're as Americans, and this is one of the things that unites us, right? Is this common history, this common passion for this nation. As diverse as we are, we can be passionate around the ideals that make America America. And this show was titled, the thrust of this is restoring the American dream. And the American dream is admitting that the first step to restoring it is admitting that there's a crisis that is deeper than economics and deeper than politics.
100%.
America is facing a moral crisis. It's facing a lack of trust. It's facing a spiritual crisis. And when I say spiritual, I'm not talking about religious. I'm talking about the soul of Americans that makes us. There was a time when we felt like some of the things that we did, or most of the things that we did, was a noble enterprise. We don't feel that way anymore. We don't feel that way right now. We don't feel proud of everything that our nation is doing. But being an American means that you must be passionate enough about America to protest. You must be
100%.
passionate enough about America to say something, to stand up and say something. I grew up in Washington, D.C., and attended my first protest when I was 14 years old. I snuck out of the house. And,
I thought you grew up in New York. I didn't realize you grew up in D.C.
No, I grew up in Washington, D.C.
Wow.
I was out at the White House the night that Richard Nixon resigned. I was standing right in front of the
Are
White
you
House.
kidding? Wow.
I was there. I was there. We were there. Our family participated in some of the marches on Washington, and my father was a police officer. In 1963 in Washington D.C. and had to cover the monument ground. So for the I Have
Wow.
a Dream. So I lived that history in my lifetime, so it is very deep and very passionate for me and to feel this way. And
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
you know what? It's hopefully we can get everybody to feeling that way. And it's interesting that you brought up Nixon because this on our last meeting we were talking about some of the issues facing this country and going through a list of them, and I think we're going to continue that on now. But one of the principles that you brought up that in helping to restore that American dream was demanding character in leadership. Demanding character in leadership.
right.
Oh boy, we are short
Oh
on that
boy,
one right
is
now.
right. Yeah, yeah. And someone said, I forget who said it, but they said we get we get the leaders we deserve, right? You know, it's
You
like
elect the government that I
you
think it was
elect
Jefferson. I think he said you elect the government you deserve.
you elect the government you deserve. And
Yeah,
to be honest, we've got to hold our elected officials not to a higher moral standard, but they've got to be higher than just the common everyday criminals, right? I
yeah.
mean, it was funny, and I'll find this. I hate to make references to things you don't have in front of you that you can pull up, but there was a meme that was said, hey, and it went down a list of things that these people were involved with, and it was non-payment of child support, it was domestic violence, it was drug abuse, it was and you said, are these people, and they gave a whole list. They said, are these people NFL performers? Are these people da da da? And it turns out they're politicians.
Politicians.
They're all elected politicians. They have the highest rates of some of the dysfunctions. Now, listen, life is life, and people run into things, and people have things happen. We're not saying that our elected officials have to be super moral, but we've got to set a higher standard to be
100%.
able to say to them. I mean, this is the first time in history we've ever elected a convicted felon,
Felon.
a felon.
Re-elected. And we re-elected him. Yeah, after
So
and after 1/6, I would have thought, honestly, Michael, I guess in some ways I'm so disappointed in my country when that happened because after January 6th, I thought the days of Trump are over. And we reelected the guy. And again, I'm not doing this from just a partisan standpoint, but really, with this, we have what 280 million people in this country, and we reelect that. Okay,
right,
it just, I mean, it broke my heart, and I'll also be honest too. That's what really gave me the gumption to want to do what we're doing here right now, because when you elect somebody without that character, when you elect somebody like that, it's not reflective on them. It's reflective on us as a
right.
country and the people that vote, in my opinion.
And one of the things that we have going against us, Brian, is everybody is chasing the clicks. So we are so
Yeah,
divert, diluted. Our voices, our common interests are so diluted
yeah,
throughout, all of the things that we pay attention to and that we give time. But the good news is, we can get things at the speed of a tweet. However, now that they're doing polling at the speed of a tweet, these honest pollsters are coming back saying, okay, this is how people are feeling. This is
hmm,
where people are feeling. But we've got to allow those feelings, our gut, the American gut feelings, to be translated at the ballot box because that's our voice, right? That's where we can speak and at the No Kings rallies and these peaceful public
yeah,
protests. I so believe in peaceful public protests. I was brought up on that. I grew up on that, and I think that's what makes America great is we can have peaceful public protests, protesting something you disagree with, and I've participated in them. From the time I was like I was saying, I was 14 years old, and so, but the
Mhm.
character that we demand has to be presented as American people, as we read, as we listen to, as we tweet, as we respond to tweets. And listen, we can do our commercial now. Look, if you like this show, like us,
Like it,
follow
share
us,
it, share it.
share it, tell somebody else, because we're here, and Restoring the American Dream is here Tuesdays and Thursday nights, and we're looking at expanding doing some other things. So you'll be hearing more about us, but
Yeah,
stay tuned in to the No Bull Media Group and listen to what is going on, because we're excited about
yeah.
moving the ball forward.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. I think it's one of the things that really makes us different is we were just talking about this on the political arena, and that's the show that starts right before this one. It's the show before this one. Um, and it's about how we can separate what we do from mainstream media. And I'm not
Mm.
saying that there's not a place for it, but at least in what we do here, we can talk about the subjects that don't get filtered down and don't get a partisan movement. I mean, it's we've got no problem on this show beating up Democrats or Republicans or independents, because the whole goal of it is for all of us to start talking to each other and not doing it for the clicks, but start doing something to make a better America for the next 250 years.
Yeah.
I want to move on to some of the other slides, but I want to share something with you because you started talking about strength and character. And I made a post on X, and the post was that on the primary races coming in, that they showed the different age groups, and they said this is the percentage of them that have voted. Okay, and I saw on one of these polls that it was 18 to 34, and for this demographic, and only 5% of 18 to 34 had voted. And at the
Mm.
other age groups, you're seeing 25, 35%. And so I said, I remarked and I said, it's just so depressing for me, because this is the future of our country. Those 18 to 34, we're not the future, Michael. They're the future. And only
Yeah.
5% of them are voting. And then somebody came back and they said, well, why would you get excited about voting for these candidates that are out there in this slate of candidates? And that goes back to exactly what you said about having character and restoring character. And my reply back was, if you don't vote and you don't get involved in it, this is why you keep getting some of these clowns, right? This is it. That's
It is, and
it's
in the political, yeah.
it's a self fulfilling prophecy, right?
It is,
That's one of the things you've
getting
got to
the
feel.
Yeah, running for office is no small feat.
No,
It is a sacrifice. It is a believe me, it's a sacrifice financially, time wise. I mean, unless you're well endowed, and then even then you're still
even
spending
then,
all your personal wealth. But through mediums like ours and doing what we are doing, we can become the Tiananmen Square of media, and being able to do shows like Restoring the American Dream, and like the Political Roundtable, and Noble Media Group. The networks like ours can begin to change the hearts and band Americans together. So if you're watching right now and you're believing in what we're doing, do the bare minimum, like us, follow us, and tell somebody else about us. So
hundred
we're
percent,
yeah,
100%. And again, I want to go back to something else that you said, because it's very dear to me too in fixing the next 250 years of our country. You said, Brian, we need to strengthen families.
yeah.
Um, and I thought
The
about
family,
that, and I
yeah.
was really kind of hit me about strengthening families, and I thought, is it always just about us, your brother, your sister? But it's not really, is it? I'll bet you it's strengthen your families, your community, your friends. Is that how you mean it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, we used to say, or not used to say, we say, we understand that, like, for instance, a church is no stronger than its weakest family.
Hmm.
And a community,
Hmm.
we use the expression, it takes a village, right? Well, the village is no stronger than the weakest family. So when it all boils down, that nucleus of a family, however it's described, and I'm not trying to moralize what a family looks like, but you live with a group of people that you sleep with and eat with and you get up with most of
Yeah.
the time. And that's called a family. And those units are people who know you best and who are concerned about your welfare,
Yeah.
physical, mental, emotional, etc. Strengthening that unit is very, very important. Now we know that raising children, right, is so very, very important, that we realize that children are those statistics on the nuclear family, a mother, a father, those statistics do not lie. And they, in terms of a child's health and well-being and so forth. Doesn't mean they're going to be perfect, but
Right.
that's the best start. And now even grandparents living at home and living with them. So the strengthening the family means just that unit of people that you are closest to, who are part of you know your people, so to speak,
Yeah.
uh, and being able to strengthen them and encourage them. And I was reading something in terms of taxes and tax laws and tax benefits, and there are a lot of proposals out there right now to give tax benefits to families, that intact families, and to be able to move our economy forward by investing in families.
Yeah. You've done a lot of work in the inner cities, probably more than anybody I know, quite frankly. Have you seen in your time that um, a broken family was the kids of a broken family were more likely to commit crimes, or more likely to drop out of school or things of that nature? I mean, did you see that when you were
Oh,
with all your work?
absolutely. The statistics were just through the roof. I mean, the statistic, there's no comparison to how a child is going to grow up. It is one of the biggest indicators of where that child
Hmm.
is going to be, and you can start those prediction matrix, by the time a child is in the third grade. There's a thing called the third grade dropout syndrome, which
Hmm.
they literally build prisons and can project how many prisons they're going to build based on the third grade reading levels of inner city
I
kids.
never knew that. I've never heard that before in my life. Wow.
Oh yeah,
Wow.
it's called the third grade dropout syndrome. It's real. And so if kids can't read on it proficiently by the third grade, they are more likely to go to prison than they are to go to college.
Wow. Yeah, that's a
Yeah. And
very good point. Strengthening the
and
family.
that is the family that is going. It could be a single mom, but it's the family unit. It's those adults who are caregivers to those children who make that happen. Now,
Mm.
we as a country, we value that. We can, to restore the American dream, we have to invest in that. We have to invest in those principles and in those people who make that happen.
You've raised kids, I've raised kids. I wonder if one of the ways, and I'm thinking kind of outside the box, but raising kids is expensive. When my parents went to or had us, me and my sister. My mom stayed home. I mean, she never worked. My dad worked a full time job. My mom stayed home. She did the typical cleaning and the cooking and welcome home honey and all of that. Um, I can't remember what the statistic was, and so I apologize. But the vast number of families today, mom and dad work, and the kid goes to a homeschooling, and you're paying $800 a month for them to go to a pre-care or preschool. And I wonder if one of the ways that we could help to restore that nucleus would be seriously increasing the amount of money that you get as a write-off for your children. If you're going to get I mean, I'm just throwing out this number, of $5,000 a year or $10,000 a year write off, then that's at some point it's cheaper for mom to stay home than to send the kids off to to a daycare, right? And that doesn't that
Yeah,
help the nucleus?
it does somewhat, but we have to invest in the parents that are doing the parenting. In other words,
Mm,
just giving them money for staying home or giving them enough money to stay home or to even make ends meet doesn't meet all of the criteria. I've got two of my dearest friends. They run a reading program in Harlem called the Harlem Reading Project. And what it focuses on teaching parents to teach their preschool kids to read.
mm,
They have 100% success rates.
mm,
For they can teach a kid who is in the 4 years old, 3 years old to read, if even without with no developmental delays, and we're not talking about the exceptionally bright kids,
mm.
but we're talking about normal average intelligent kids, but parents have to be involved. And see, that's the key, is getting parents engaged, getting them involved, and getting them reading through the stuff and knowing what's going on. So it's all a part of that strengthening of the families. But that's one of the things that America's foundation has always been, built on that
Strong
foundation of the
families.
strong family. You
Uh,
know,
I
yeah,
know one of the other things, and I'm glad we're taking a deep dive into some of this. I think it's important. One of the other things, and you've mentioned this, is create spaces for honest dialogue. In
right.
some ways, isn't that what we're doing here right now? you
That's
know,
exactly what we're doing right now. That's exactly what we're doing. And spaces that are created are not just, electronic. It's spaces in your head, spaces in your heart. So when you hear someone say something that may disagree with you, you're not automatically shutting them down or canceling them. You're saying, well, let me listen and let me follow this all the way through. That was one of the things that I enjoyed about living in New York City, because in New York City, they make places, there are public spaces everywhere you go. There's somebody on a street corner saying something that may be significant, that may not, and it tends to be, because that's just kind of the
hmm,
character of New York, and we tend to think, okay, those people are a little crazy, but no, that altruistic behavior should be rewarded, and if a person is serious about some of the commitments that they have and some of the things that they're saying, we've got to be able to engage as Americans in that public dialogue.
yeah,
We've got to be to engage. I remember I was on a show. CNN did a show when the whole controversy on kneeling, the NFL players
oh yeah,
kneeling
yeah,
in the national anthem. And there was this whole debate, about it going on, and I had to come on CNN, and it wasn't a debate, but the dialoguing with the likes of Spike Lee, and Anderson Cooper hosted the panel, and we had but it was a wonderfully done show, and they had NFL players from around the country that were talking about this and sharing their feelings. It was wonderful. Now, I didn't agree with everything that was being said, and certainly I had a divergent point of view in many respects. However, it was done so well.
mm,
It was done so well that people began to see it, and actually, it did shape the way that the NFL players handled that whole situation. The next season they chose to do it differently. I don't want to say it was because of our show, but it was because there was an honest dialogue. There was a place where those kinds of things could happen, and that discussion could take place.
and make them understand a little broader view instead of their little pigeonhole of this is what I believe. Now you got to listen to other people and what they believe, and that's what you're saying is creating an honest space for discussion, for dialogue, right? So
Absolutely.
yeah, um, you know, I do wonder, and again, I know we're deep diving into this, but how does that work? Creating an honest space for dialogue. How does that work for the newest generation, our kids, that have grown up in a social media world, or that have grown up with they got You got your phone right here, and you look at somebody today, man, and they're locked in their phone. They're watching this. They'll run into you if you don't get out of their way because they're sitting there watching their phone. Does that create an honest dialogue, or is that part of the problem too? Because how do you learn to do what we're doing right here and having a dialogue and having a discussion or asking a girl to go out on a date or whatever it is if your entire world has been formed around the phones and texting and social media, Michael? How does that work?
Well, agreed. You know, screen time is definitely a deterrent to clear thinking. I mean, we know that, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a correlation. However, when you look at it's a matter of a person keeping an open mind about
Mm,
what they're looking at, and then once they've reached a decision, making decisions about moving things forward, advancing causes forward. When I was running for office in New York City, we had a thing called the voters' guides, and those were big deals because they came out in print and they were on the internet. Now, the New York City Board of Elections, I think, is one of the toughest in the nation. People wouldn't believe it when I said I said that, but they are one of the toughest and most strictest in the nation. And they are a nonpartisan group that simply wants fair elections in New York City.
mm.
And yes, overwhelmingly Democrat, yes, absolutely. However, they go out of their way to make sure that Republicans are well represented in positions of influence on those boards and so forth. But my point is that the whole idea of having a space where honest dialogue and where people's opinions mattered was an honored, sacred space was important to people, and so they did things, they went out of the way. Hey, I'm loving watching California. They got 68 people running for governor. It's like, woo! I mean,
I just watching that. People ask me, "What do you think about the race?" I'm like, I can't keep up with that. you
oh my
know.
goodness. But the idea of nonpartisan elections, I mean, Michael Bloomberg and some others, really pushed hard for that. I think we're going to have it in New York City is at some point. But the groups that are fighting against that are the political parties because they lose power when you do stuff like that.
Yeah,
So
and well, especially in California where it's the top two jungle. So for those that don't know, in California, the top two move on, and more times than not in California, that's two Democrats. So you get to pick your Democrat. I don't know if that's going to happen this time. We actually talked about that on our show before this one, and you got what was it, 67 or 68 people running for office, you know but that's a good thing for America. When you've got that many people running, that is not a negative. You can't get wrap your head around it, right, as a voter, but that's not a negative, right?
right,
So
that's right. That's
um,
exactly
I know we've got a couple of other things we wanted to talk about. We're running out of time, but this is good. This is the type of dialogue and discussions we really need to start sharing with each other, and it's been a lot of fun. I mean, again, we're trying to deep dive in some of this stuff. We have no problem blaming either party or both parties usually. And so it's been very nice. As Michael said, if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel. If you're watching this at this moment, you're watching it on YouTube. We are going to move off into other platforms very, very soon, which means that if you're watching it, you may not be watching it on YouTube. You may be watching on TikTok or some other channels. But subscribe, like it, leave us a question. We'll talk about it on air. We always do. We want to have some fun with this. And the whole point of this is some engagement with the whole goal at the end of the day to make America great again and restore the American dream. So,
right,
um,
right. And the Make America Great Again, let's clarify that.
yeah, that's
That
not a
doesn't mean
political
MAGA.
statement. Yeah,
That doesn't mean MAGA.
no,
That is not, we're not a MAGA group.
no, we are not.
However, we do want to restore the American dream, and we
That's
want
right.
America to participate, and that has an open dialogue and to be engaged. in the greatness of this country.
And I'm looking forward to getting some other guests on top of here too, Michael, that can really give us some more different perspectives. You and I are a little center of right, but I'd love to hear from the younger crowd. I'd like to hear from maybe some Democrats and things like that. We're going to have a lot of fun with this. Well, again, the goal is restoring the American dream because we're 250 years into this experiment. Let's make sure we can make it another 250 years. Thanks everybody for joining us tonight. Thanks, Michael. It's always a lot of fun doing this stuff with you. I genuinely enjoy it. I'm telling you right now, if you and I lived closer, we'd be sitting out in the backyard every time barbecuing and talking this stuff. But our wives would fuss
sitting
at
on
us.
the boat, sitting on the boat.
Sitting on the USS Minnow. Yep.
That's right.
Thanks,
listen,
everybody.
On Thursday, I will be broadcasting. Okay, Thursday I'll be broadcasting live from Blacksburg, Virginia. So.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, a little trip for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we look forward to hearing from it, my friend, and we will catch everybody at the same time this coming Thursday. Thanks again for joining us.
You've been watching Reverend Michael's Restoring the American Dream. The No Bull Media Group is on all major social media platforms. Make sure to give us a follow so you can watch this show and many others.
A No Bull Media Group member.